No, the bathrobe is not just for drip purposes. I did just take a bath. Take baths almost every night. I know that's a little weird, but it's really relaxing. This should be a really short video, hopefully. Mini test, 20 questions. It's worth 50% of a test grade. The learning target is only like 20 topics or 20 terms, so hopefully we can fly through this pretty quickly. Still important, but pretty short, thank goodness. Per usual, fill out learning targets in the description. There will be a 20 question practice test and key in the description, my newsletter if you want that. And yeah, that's about it. I'll just try to go quick with this one, keep it easy. Miss Clark said that this test is pretty easy, so I wouldn't expect anything too crazy on it, and let's get right into it. Starting off with Manifest Destiny, which is the whole point of this mini unit. John O'Sullivan was the guy who came up with the term Manifest Destiny, and it was just the belief that Americans were destined by God to advance westward all the way to the Pacific Ocean. It's pretty simple. It's the main justification as to why Americans were so keen to move west. What Manifest Destiny is not. It is not people saying, oh, there's gold there, I'm going to go get rich. That is not Manifest Destiny. Manifest Destiny is God said we should go west. That's why we're going west. It's not, I mean, like, secretly desire maybe like money and new lives, yada, yada, yada. But the reason is God. That's what you have to remember. It's not anything else. Things like the gold rush, that will be influenced by other things, but Manifest Destiny, just think God. It's pretty simple. And then James K. Polk, he was a U.S. president who won a surprising race. And he fully embraced Manifest Destiny. He thought Manifest Destiny was like the greatest thing ever. He wanted territorial expansion. He annexed Texas. He acquired the Oregon Territory. He got California. He did that, purchased the Treaty of Hidalgo, whatever. And so he really almost doubled the size of America, similar to Jefferson with the Louisiana Purchase. So that's what you need to know about Polk. Is he was an avid expansionist. Economic draw of Oregon and California. Okay, so when Lewis and Clark first went and explored those regions, they came back and they were like, hey, there's a bunch of trees, like timber, bears, like meat and stuff, and like fur. There's some pretty cool resources over there. So that attracted a bunch of settlers to go make some money, and they did make some money. Also, they were on the Pacific Ocean, so it was a pretty easy trade route with China and India, which was something that America didn't really have, because if you think about where they are, they would have to go across the Atlantic, under the Cape of Good Hope, to India, or around South America. So getting to the Pacific coast was super important for trade with the Eastern Hemisphere, or like the eastern part of the Eastern Hemisphere. Mexico policy towards Texas. So initially, Mexicans wanted Americans to move and settle into Texas because no one was living there, but they had to live under the rules of Mexico. But when all the Americans moved in, they didn't follow the rules of Mexico. So after a few years, tensions began to rise about the Texans not listening to the rules. These rules are like they had to follow Catholicism, which most of them didn't, and they couldn't practice slavery, which almost all of them did. So those were the two main tensions, and eventually this led to Texas wanting independence because they said, we don't want to listen to Mexico's rules, we want to be a part of the United States. So eventually that led to Civil War and War for Independence. Stephen F. Austin, this guy is the father of Texas. Our city is named after him. Thank you, Stephen F. He was the guy who first led the American settlers to Texas and bought land from Mexico. He wanted to work with the Mexican authorities initially. He said, let's work with them, let's buy their land, let's listen to their rules, kind of, and live kind of in peace. But then when the Independence War started, he supported Texas to be independent. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, which is his sick name, he was just, you guys all have taken Texas history. He's the Mexican president during the war, and he wanted to come put down his fist and re-secure Texas as a part of Mexico. And he started off really well until he got to the Battle of San Jacinto, where all the Texans sent them a bunch of like tequila the night before, and all the Mexicans got super drunk, and Santa Anna was getting laid. And then in the morning, the Texans just did a bayonet charge and killed everybody. So that was pretty sick. The Texas Revolution, this is what I'm talking about, man. Why do we put the Texas Revolution after all the stuff about the Texas Revolution? About poor learning target management. This was just the like what I was talking about, the rebellion of Texans against the Mexicans because they wanted to be a part of the Union instead of a part of Mexico, and the Mexicans did not want that, so they went and they fought. Pretty simple. James K. Polk, he was like a dark horse candidate, meaning people didn't think that he was going to win, and then he kind of like was a surprise victor, kind of like Trump in 2016. Like you can sort of think about those surprising victories. His victory kind of like cements Manifest Destiny. Like it shows that the people in America really did want to expand west, and they really did believe in Manifest Destiny. That's what him getting elected shows, and he delivered on his promise of expanding west. Got Texas, Oregon, and California / Utah and New Mexico, yada yada yada. Next up, we have U.S. interest in California, which is a lot like the main reasons why they wanted to expand west. Natural resources like timber, bears, Pacific trade routes, and eventually they found gold, which was the main reason why people settled to California. There will probably be a question on the test, which is like, why did people want to move to California? And one of the answers will be Pacific trade routes, one of the answers will be timber, and one of the answers will be gold. Gold is the most important. If there's an answer that says gold, you want to pick gold. U.S.-Mexico boundary dispute. This is the whole Rio Grande versus Nueces River thing, where the United States thought that the border of Texas was at the Rio Grande, which was like here, and the Mexicans thought that the border was at the Nueces, which was like here. So there was like all this space in between that they didn't really know whose was whose, and they both thought it was theirs. And then John Seidel, or the Seidel Mission of 1845. This was John Seidel, a guy who was sent to Mexico, and he just wanted to buy all the land leading up to the Rio Grande to just eliminate the confusion, but Mexico refused. So that didn't work. Declaration of war against Mexico in 1846. President Polk got fed up and, wait, this is so annoying. I want to do American blood on American soil first, but that's whatever. Declaration of war against Mexico. This is Polk asserting that there was like a skirmish all along the Rio Grande. Where exactly it was, that's lost to history. If it was on the American side or on the Mexican side. But there was a skirmish, Americans died. James K. Polk was like, American blood on American soil, and everyone was like, rah! And we went and we declared war and we kicked their butt. Except some of them, like Abraham Lincoln, what a party pooper, was like, oh, really? I don't think that they actually spilled blood on American territory, yada, yada, yada. So he was kind of not being war hawk baddie, but that's okay. American blood on American soil. Oh, that's what the spot resolutions are. The spot resolutions is Abraham Lincoln saying, where were the American soldiers actually killed? Were they actually killed in America, or were they actually killed in Mexico? Because if they were actually killed in Mexico, we're really just instigating a fight. I mean, they were instigating the fight anyway, but he was like, then we're really don't have a cause for war, and we're just being expansionist little greedy folks, which they were. But that's okay. American blood on American soil. This is the skirmish where Americans died in the disputed region, and James K. Polk and the rest of Congress decided to go to war, but it wasn't fully popular. This was one of the first times that a war wasn't fully popular. Not every, like if you went to houses, every now and then you get a guy who'd be like, I don't really care for the war, which wasn't normal of wars back then in America. Most of the time everyone was unified in the war. Treaty of Guadalupe, Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So this was the treaty that ended the Mexican-American War, which moved the Rio Grande, here, we'll just go to the terms. Just know that Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the Mexican-American War in 1848. The terms of the provisions were Mexico recognized the Rio Grande, which was the one that America initially claimed, as the border for Texas, and that's still the border for Texas today. And it ceded California, New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, all those territories it ceded to the United States for $15 million, which I think is about what the Louisiana Purchase was. I think that was like 15 million or 30. Yeah, Louisiana Purchase was 15 million. So this is just 15 million with less inflation. So, but they also won the war, so it kind of makes sense. But it was still a good purchase. Ratification in the Senate. I don't know why this is on here, but the U.S. Senate ratified the treaty on March 10th, which officially expanded the U.S. territory to the Pacific. I don't know if they want me to say something else there, but that's what I put. The Mexican-American War as a precursor to the Civil War. This is one of the more important parts of this unit. This expanded, they had so much territory, the size of the United States essentially doubled, or the territories of the United States essentially doubled in size, and there was all this land, and people were really worried because most of the land was above the Missouri Compromise line, meaning most of the new states would be free states, and that kind of threw a wrench into the balance of power in the Senate, and people started to get a little annoyed. And eventually down the road, slavery is the issue, which leads to the Civil War. So Mexican-American War does lead to this, helps lead to the Civil War because it re-sparks the debate about slavery because it shifts the balance of power. Turning point in relations with Latin America. All the Latin American countries were kind of like, oh, the U.S. is instigating fights to expand their territory, and they kind of got scared, and they started to like the U.S. a little bit less. Effect on the slavery issue. This is just, as I said before, it reignited the conversation of whether slavery should be allowed, and this led to new agreements like the Compromise of 1850, which isn't on here, but you should probably know because it will probably be on the test, which was overturned the Missouri Compromise and made a new thing where California was admitted as a free state, but the two territories of Utah and New Mexico, or Utah and Arizona or something, whatever, those two territories got to decide for themselves whether they wanted to be free or slave. So that was the Compromise of 1850, but that still increased tensions, and 15 years later, or not even 10 years later, the Civil War started. The Gadsden Purchase, super hype. The U.S. bought some desert in modern-day Arizona and New Mexico. From Mexico, they paid for it. They didn't fight for it, but it's because they wanted to build a transcontinental railroad, and they didn't want to go through the Rocky Mountains, so they just decided they'd go south. So they bought that little strip of desert to build a railroad through it. And then here we are, the last two things. Gold Rush. This was just the discovery of gold in California, which is the reason why everyone moved there, because they wanted to get filthy rich. And this was like another reason why westward expansion was so prevalent. And then Commodore Matthew Perry, which is super fun. Basically, America was on the Pacific coast now, so they were doing a little bit of trade operations, and this guy, Commodore Matthew Perry, and some warships pulled up to Japan and was like, surprise, congratulations, you get to trade with the United States of America now. And Japan was like, oh, sorry, we're like a closed country, we don't trade. And Commodore Matthew Perry was like, surprise, you get to trade with the United States of America and their big, beautiful, massive warships that are right behind me. And you're going to do it. So it was semi-diplomatic, but it opened Japan to American trade. And if you remember from world history, this is one of the main things that sparked the Meiji Restoration, right? The Japanese look at the American warships and they're like, these guys are like so much stronger than us, they could just completely colonize us like the rest of Asia. So they start rapidly industrializing to be able to defend themselves. So pretty cool. That very short unit should be really easy. We'll crush the test. No dates and peoples quiz. Pretty straightforward. Y'all got this. See you later.